From the News Channel 8 studios, let's talk live with your hosts, Natasha Barrett and Melanie Hastings.
Well, do you ever feel like no matter how hard you try, you just can't seem to accomplish your tasks and your visions? Communications expert Stephen Gaffney is here today to talk about the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to be successful and what you can do to accomplish your goals. This is a great topic, Steve. A lot of people are, of course, we all want to be successful, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest mistake we make is we compare ourselves to other people. Think about this. We're married, we want to have a great marriage. What do? We start looking at other marriages, and then we say, oh, they have such the ideal marriage. They don't argue. They're so happy. And then they tell us, oh, I'm so happy and everything else. And then you find out they get a divorce.
Yep.
So
things are not always what they appear to be, are they?
Isn't that the case? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember years ago they did a study about people lying, and they reported that 93% of people lie regularly. I actually think the other 7% lied on the study, because the reality is people lie because they want to give their best image forward. Oh, everything is great. So the problem is that we start comparing ourselves to other people. What we should do instead is ask ourselves, are we reaching our full potential, and compare ourselves to what we can become. I'll give you an example.
But it seems to me, just to take a step back to grade school, we have all been socialized this way. I mean, when you're going through elementary school, it's always about getting the best tests in the class, or, running the race the faster. You want that blue ribbon. I mean, you're always trying to compare yourself or challenge yourself against your peers.
And it would appear that that would give evidence to say, wait a minute, that's the way we should do it. Let me give you a case in point that flies in the face of that logic. John Wooden was a basketball coach for UCLA. He won 7 straight national championships with a college in college, so UCLA. That means you have to have a huge turnover and everything else. 7 straight championships. What he said to his players was, forget about the score. The question is, are you playing to your full potential? So what if we did that in our marriage? What if we did this with our children and said, forget about that. My question is, in school, are you giving it your best? And when they say, yes, really. Are you really giving your best? And in our marriage, are we really giving it our best? And in our job, are we really giving it our best? Because the reality is, if we really take a look at ourselves, we probably know we can actually do better. I don't mean this to make us feel inadequate. I actually mean to give us a motivation that we can excel by looking at what we can become rather than compare ourselves to other people. So I'm on this campaign to stop comparing ourselves to other people. Look, even before I came on, you were talking about like the Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
And so what do a lot of people do? Well, how do I look? How old is she? Who cares? All right, so she's Photoshopped, she's not Photoshopped. The question is, how do we look? Are we taking care of ourselves? What are we doing to move forward in our lives?
Well, along that line of thinking, I mean, you really can't be complacent then.
Yes.
If you're looking at yourself and how am I doing, I have to constantly be raising the bar in order to get better and do better.
Absolutely. Because the biggest thing that happens when we start comparing ourselves to other people is we start feeling inadequate. Gosh, I'm not as successful as them. Mm-hmm. I don't have as much money as them. Oh, they look so much better. So we start to feel lousy about ourselves. Well, the problem is when we feel lousy about ourselves, we start lashing out at other people. And how we treat other people has a lot to do with how we think and treat ourselves. So if we don't feel good about ourselves, we start being snappy with other people, we don't appreciate other people, and we're just not as happy. So you could even look at this as one of the keys to being happy in life is to stop comparing ourselves to other people. But it's not just like we lay around. The key is to look at what we can become and start to achieve that.
Now, part of this is, having that great vision of what I can become or what I can achieve. And how do we lay that out?
Yeah, here's the big problem with vision and goals. We have a reaction to the past. So one of the keys is to stop creating goals based on what other people are doing, but start to say, what would I really like to become? How would I like my marriage really to look? How would I like my friendships really to look? And actually ask yourself, if I had a magic wand, how would I like my life to look? And then what will start to happen is those negative thoughts. Well, I love this, but I'm not as talented. Well, think, where did that thought come from? I'm not as talented. Because we probably started comparing ourselves to other people who achieved that goal. Instead, if we say, you know what? I don't know them. I don't know all the particulars. What if I could achieve that goal? What if I could achieve that vision?
So don't worry about reality. Kind of let your mind float into the, you know, the kind of fanciful world, maybe that kids enjoy, you know, unrestrained, just daydreaming.
Yeah, because here's the big problem. Look at history for a moment. Look at Martin Luther King and all the other people that were successful. Look at Steve Jobs, right? And look at Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey. Think if they just said, well, I'm just going to be as good as this person. They would never be the success that they are today. And Martin Luther King, what if he had said, you know what, I just want to be the best preacher? Now, there's nothing wrong with being a great preacher, but what if he had just stopped and said, I'm going to be the best preacher? Instead, he said, what can I become? How can I help people? What's a big vision? And he raised the level of millions of people and showed us that we really can achieve a lot more. And it starts from a very powerful vision.
What do you do with all those people along the way that say, oh, you'll never achieve that, you can't do that, you know?
You got to distance yourself with them.
Yeah.
They
the
are
naysayers.
Yeah, they're dream crushers. You know, people say, you'll never be successful, or they start comparing, oh yeah, you want to achieve that? Well, I know somebody and they didn't achieve it and they were smarter than you. Or anybody who talks that way, here's what you say to them. I understand. Got to go.
Yeah.
And you know what?
It's like a cancer, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It infects our mind, and it makes us feel lousy. I think in life we have to surround ourselves by supporters, people who believe in us, but they'll also challenge us, right? We just don't want yes people.
No,
we
that
want
can be
people to
just
say,
as bad.
Absolutely. Like imagine they said, well, you can, what could you achieve? How could you improve? Did you give your full potential? How could you improve and make a better tomorrow? What could you do? It's like we want people that bring the best out in us and show us we really can be successful. And sometimes they see things in us that we don't even see in ourselves. And those are the great people to have around us, people who believe in us.
All right, so we're believing. Now I need to know what to do. How do I start toward that journey?
So we got to create a plan, and then usually it was, well, I don't know, and there's so many steps, and again we run into all this complication. So here's the easiest way to solve that. What's the next step? Okay, so we create a goal. Okay, I'm not exactly sure how to get there, but what's the next step? Well, you know what? I'm going to read a book on this, or I'm going to go talk to people and ask them ideas. How could I achieve that goal? Start with the next step, and then you accomplish that next step, you go to the next step, and you go to the next step. And then what happens is you start to realize, you know what? I'm moving forward. Things are going well. And you start to feel better, you build momentum, you have that inertia going, and suddenly you are really achieving what you set out to achieve. So just think about what the next step is and watch who you're surrounded by and make sure you have key supporters who believe in you.
And like what something might have seemed so unachievable before, but maybe by taking those little steps, you're starting to see, oh, out there in the distance, I can see my end goal. It's there.
Absolutely. You know, I get a chance to coach a lot of people, and a lot of people at very high levels. And when you ask them their keys to success, they often will say, you know, I never dreamed I could actually get to where I'm at. The reality is they often had that dream, but they didn't know how to get there. But what they ended up doing was they had essentially that glimmer of a dream, and they just started to achieve and achieve and achieve. So that's the whole point, is we don't have to map out a massive plan that is just going to complicate us. Think about this. If you wanted to lose weight, right, instead of yourself saying, or gain weight, or whatever the case may be, first we compare ourselves, dead end road. Instead of saying, what could I actually do? And say, oh, I don't know where to start. Well, what's the next step? Maybe a slight
half a pound.
Yeah.
Half a pound is the next step. All right, well, it's great to talk to you today on how to succeed and achieve success. Steve Gaffney is a communications expert. We appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.